Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Living Second Nature Earth Girl podcast. My name is Shodi Morris. We are at episode number 6 today. Super excited to be joined by my guest today. She has a nice little list of credentials, and I found my favorite people to interview, like the credentials are really kind of just secondary to the kind of person they are and their ability to connect with others and just be really good at what they're doing. So my guest has a major in business administration and a minor in health, wellness, and sports from the University of Dubuque, Iowa. She is also a certified nutritional therapy practitioner through the Nutritional Therapy Association. She has a certification through Restorative Wellness Solutions, and she is currently working toward being certified as a health coach, which will be completed September of this year of 2025. We'll get more into how we met in a little bit, but for now, please welcome my guest, Erin Wiest.
Thank you.
So yeah, we'll talk about how we met because it's fun. So Erin, I run across her on social media maybe a year and a half ago, I would say. And we have a mutual client. Her name is Jeannie, and Jeannie had brought Erin's name up once, and then the second time her name came up, I said, you know what? I said, you know how I have witchy vibes on people? I was like, I really like her. I'm like, I can tell all of her info is genuine. She's really legitimate. Like everything that she posts is like really solid information. I was like, I really like her. And she giggled and she goes, oh my gosh, you will just love her. Like, she's like, whenever I'm with her, I always think of you. You guys have so much in common. And that, I don't know, within like a week, we had a sound healing with Mariah Voorhees. And Jeannie wanted to attend, and she happened to invite Erin. So I believe that was it like maybe September-ish, I think.
Yeah.
It was like late summer, early fall. And so, yeah, I mean, you guys came, and after the sound healing, like, we were hugging before the event was even done. And just connected like right from the beginning. And and then our conversations are just endless down the rabbit holes and on so many topics. So anyway, that was just a really fun connection. And I love it. And a lot of times I find that people kind of in the same industry doing the same things can be catty and competitive against each other and just really shitty. And you and I do a lot of the same work, and I feel like we're very much a team and we help each other. And if there's someone that I feel is a better fit for you, I don't hesitate to send them your way. So anyway, just all the goodness. So let's just start by you sharing your story. So one of my favorite quotes that I see all throughout life with myself and others is, your mess becomes your message. And I feel like everything that we go through, especially the challenges, like we're meant to just stop and sit and sink into that and find our way through that journey, but it's never without a deeper purpose. And I firmly believe that we go through that because we are meant to help and coach and support others going through what we have lived. And all of like my most favorite powerful people have that same story, like the big, heavy, deep, shaking struggles and what they gained from that and what they're doing with that now. So take some time and go ahead and share your story.
Oh, yes. Thank you for all of that. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
So The fact that you even mentioned that quote is enough to say in itself because I felt every word of that because that is absolutely why I began this journey that I'm currently on and still pursuing every day. Uh, so back in fourth grade, I have my own health journey, obviously, but back in fourth grade is really essentially when it started for me because I started having my period in fourth grade, pretty young for a girl. And it wasn't only just a normal period for a little girl, it was extremely heavy since day one. And I remember every single month, I was always in the nurse's office. I could not handle the pain all the time. And multiple doctors I had went to over the first couple of years of having my period, and they're like, "Oh, this is just what happens with some girls." And I was young, and my mom was very inexperienced as a mom going into this because she's has another daughter, my sister, but they'd never gone through this, nothing like this. And as I got older, I continued to have the period pain, constant cramping, laying on the floor, just like curled up in a ball, just bawling and screaming, like so much pain. And as I got a little bit older, I, started to think more of, what is going on, like this, talking to my friends who had gotten their period and things like that. And their period wasn't the same as mine. And each year I got a little bit older and I was like, okay, there must be something going on. And the doctors continued to tell me, no, there's nothing going on. Like, this is just a normal cycle for a woman, a young woman. And I had taken years of, pain medication, Tylenol, ibuprofen. Um, but every month it was still the same. Like, nothing seemed to work. So at the age of 14, they put me on birth control. And they said, here, this birth control is going to help you. And it did for the first month. I was taking it. And then it was about 2.5 months later, the pain all came back. So then they put me on a different birth control and then a different birth control. Every time they put me on a different birth control, it would help for a very short period of time, but all of that pain would come back. So 18 years old came and I was diagnosed with endometriosis. And at that point where I was graduating high school, I was, of course, a teenager, like starting to live the life of like how a teenager would usually live, wanting to party more and things like that. And, you know, eating stupidly now that I look back onto it, obviously. But about the age of 21, 22, I believe, that is when I went to yet another doctor and they said, you have endometriosis, and there's a good chance because of the scar tissue in your body that you probably won't be able to have kids. And that was what broke the camel's back for me. And I was like, I would not accept that for anything because I'm like, no, I'm not going to accept just that answer. So that's what kind of evolved into where I am today, really digging down and figuring out like what's going on with my body, what can I do to change it besides living on birth control my whole life. And
And what age were you at that point when they told you you probably couldn't have
it
kids?
was like 21, 22 around there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was really what broke me the most was sitting there in the doctor's office. And I was like, well, what about nutrition? Can I change my diet? Like being optimistic. And they're like, no, that's not really going to help. Like, can I change my lifestyle? If I stop drinking, will that help? No, that's not really going to help. Everything that I threw at them, they consistently told me, that's probably not going to help you. Like, the damage is already done. And I refused to take no for an answer. And that's kind of how my whole story evolved from there. I was like, I started doing more research on nutrition and how cleaning up your diet can help support your body in so many ways, and how moving your body can help support your body. Eating every day, 3 meals a day, can help support your body. And the more that I dove into this research, the more that I started, incorporating it into my own lifestyle. And the better I started to feel. And I was like, wait, there's something to this. Like, I was deceiving all the odds that they told me that I couldn't have a kid. So, long story short, I got into this. I started going to school for it, loving, being around people that were motivated, like with stories like me. And then I ended up meeting my husband. We settled down, and I now have 2 children. So I beat the odds of them telling me that I wouldn't be able to have kids by literally changing my diet and my lifestyle. Working on my stress has also been a huge factor, a huge part of my life, because growing up, I didn't have the best family dynamic, and I didn't realize how much that was really affecting my whole life. My mom really wasn't a mom figure to me, and that was really a lot more detrimental to my own health than I really thought. So I think all in all, working on my diet, working on my nutrition, and then working on my nervous system has been the biggest shifts in my health for the better.
So I'm sitting over here smirking because if this were just a conversation between you and I, there'd probably be 20 F bombs already. Just,
Yes.
just so much emotion behind that story, frustration, and it's across the board in the system currently, the Western medical system. Those are the kind of answers that most people receive on a lot of different topics, not just what you went through. And when you know better and you've lived a different truth, and then you start researching and looking into the science and getting certified and helping others, it's hard not to just be set on fire, not only with passion to help others and give them hope, but also it's hard to not be angry at times at people being told such hopeless, devastating, confining words that are simply not true. That is not how the body works. So, yes, that's quite the story. And so, let's see. You have 2 children, and how many years on the other side of that are you? So, you were told around early 20s you couldn't have children, and then where are you? 30s, mid 30s? 37.
37.
Okay. So just to kind of give the listeners an idea of how many years have passed, since you were told that at 21, you're now 37, now have 2 children, and are helping others in similar situations and situations that aren't what you went through, but it all still applies.
Absolutely.
So is there any one specific do you find yourself like most passionate about fertility and that topic, or not necessarily?
No, not necessarily. I think the more that I started researching and learning on my own by doing, has made the biggest changes for myself, which has made me, I never thought, I guess, in a million years that I would be so passionate about nervous system health, because I figured out how dysregulated my own nervous system was and how much that was impacting my daily life, and I didn't even realize it. That go, that constantly pushing myself in workouts or running and just doing stupid things when I was young, that now I look back and I'm like, wow, like I was so dysregulated. I mean, obviously, I'm still working on it, Once you realize, like you kind of said, once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? And then it's always something that you want to continue to improve yourself on. And I feel that more and more when I see clients on a day-to-day basis. The nervous system dysregulation is so real.
So that's an area I had kind of made a note on that let's dive into that for several reasons. One is it affects almost everyone. That is just the general accepted, almost promoted society that we live in. So I'm on year 22 of practicing natural health, healing, massage, body work, Reiki, all the things, which, the common thread in all of that is helping people to engage that parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. And I remember about 15 years ago, I was working on a client, and then it just started to be like one client after the next, and I could feel their nervous system. And I got really, really geeked out, went down that like super detailed about everybody's nervous system. I remember in massage school, we learned a technique called Casey's M's, and it's was founded by Edgar Casey, I believe. I cannot remember what year. It's over 100 years ago, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I went on a streak for several years where I did that on almost every single client because it's a technique that will almost always put somebody right into that rest and digest part of their nervous system to activate that and kind of turn off the switch of that fight and flight. And so for quite a few years, like I got very kind of just obsessive about that. I taught some classes on like self-love, self-nourishment, how to engage that parasympathetic, like all the tools, because I could just feel so strongly that almost everyone could use that, including myself. Although at that point in my life, like that chapter, things weren't as stressful. I have been actively for probably a year working on my own nervous system as well. And it's such a sneaky thing because, like I don't really, when stress becomes so normal, you don't even know you're stressed anymore. And I remember like kind of just evaluating like and really kind of self-judgment in a good way, like no, I'm not stressed because I loved my life. I loved being a mom. I loved raising my kids. Absolutely love my business. I love where I live. There just wasn't anything that I would change. But I had Amir is now 5.5, and this was like several years ago. She was closer to like newborn toddler. The business here had taken off, had a large team going, and everywhere I turned, there was a ton of demand from me in every area. From the minute I'd get up in the 5 o'clock hour till I'd hit the bed sometime well after dark. And then when she was little, even in the middle of the night. And I didn't want to admit to myself that I was just full of stress because I loved everything about everything I was doing. And so I really first kind of had to admit to myself, like, yeah, I am stressed. I am in the fight and flight, like, because I just had so much like energy going out constantly and really like nothing. I wasn't stopping to put myself on the recharger in any way whatsoever. So, of course, then do that so long, health problems start to arise, and you can either ignore them and they'll get louder, or you can just sit with that and be like, okay, where can I start making some changes? So I still am actively working on, my nervous system. And there's times when I'm sitting, nothing is being demanded of me, but my shoulders are still tense and tight. Whoa, there you are in that fight and flight mode while you're sitting. A lot of people, like I would study them on the table and watch how they were breathing, and they might be almost ready to fall asleep during a massage, but you can tell by where their breath is coming from in their body. A lot of them are still in the fight and flight and all night long in the fight and flight, and they're never getting out of it. So let's talk a little bit more science about the central nervous system, what's happening when you're in the fight and flight, why you have to, why it is essential to get into the rest and digest mode for the body to heal. So there's so much to talk about. You just
There is.
All right, go.
There is. Don't you think it's important to even mention how this is all affected? You kind of like touch base on like our schedule and things, but like it's so much more than that we don't even realize. Like one of the things for me I didn't realize is that the people around you can make you dysregulated. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't even realize it. They can just think about the people that like suck your energy or make you not feel so great about yourself. Those people can be affecting your nervous system and not even know it. Your job, who you're surrounded by, the energy in your job every day when you go to work, even the energy in your home, the food that you're eating, that you're ingested. How many people eat processed foods nowadays? They're everywhere. The chemicals, the additives, the dyes, all of them are affecting our nervous system. They're affecting our brain. They're affecting our nervous system. They're affecting our digestion. And all of that is interconnected with the nervous system. The way we eat, Think about the way
Absolutely.
we eat when we're sitting down. How many people are just shoveling food in our mouth? I was guilty of that
Mm-hmm.
until we become familiar with what we're actually doing. What is that doing to our body? Because most of us are in that fight or flight response when we're sitting down to eat a meal because we're in that go, go, go. We got to run the kids to baseball practice. We got to run our daughters to dance, or we got to do this, we got to do that. We can't actually sit down, take a few deep breaths, and actually enjoy the food in front of us because our nervous system is so upregulated. And even when we sleep, when we sleep, we can't, like most of the time, a lot of people say, like, I can't sleep, I can't sleep, I can't sleep. Strongly interconnected with the nervous system, that
Mm-hmm.
fight or flight response, because, like you said, their hearts are racing, or they have, their
Rapid,
legs are
shallow
twitching.
breathing.
Yes, they're
Mm-hmm.
twitching, like their legs are twitching, or, so many different things that we're constantly, as a society, I feel like, in that fight or flight response, kind of like you said, we don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
We're so distracted with so many different things around us, whatever's going on, the different stressors in our life that go, go, go. Specifically women. Like, I'm not trying to be sexist, but like women have that kind of schedule where it seems like everything is like essentially on their to-do list. And if you're a single mom like you're even more, designed to have that da 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 da. I need to get this done, this done, this done, this done, this done. And all of that stress, all of those different things are putting stress on your nervous system. That's why you need to
Mm-hmm.
learn to like tune in. Okay, why am I feeling like this? And the more that you lean into the things that you make yourself feel good, the more that you're going to become aware when your nervous system becomes dysregulated.
Absolutely. It's funny you brought up the food thing because just yesterday we were in Viroqua and Draven wanted to go to our favorite restaurant and I had an appointment coming up and I was like, oh, 45 minutes. I don't know if we can get in and get out. I'll ask. And they're like, yeah, no problem. And we did, but we ate fast. And I said to Draven, that was good, but I feel awful. Like, I feel like I hardly even tasted that. And he goes, and he was done well before me. And he goes, oh, that was nothing. That's how I have to eat all the time. And yeah, school, like every system, everywhere we turn is set up to like, hurry up, you only have so many minutes to do this and on to the next. And normally, so I just got done with a 30-day cleanse and a lot of it was fasting and I had some vegetables throughout the day. So when I was eating, I wasn't rushed and I just came off of that like a week ago. And I'm at the point where, like, if I don't have time to sit down and eat the meal, I'll take bites of food in between, which is fine, kind of putting
Hmm.
fuel in the tank. But yeah, I just that he's so used to it's just eats it, done, didn't taste it, on to the next thing. And since I hadn't done that for a month, and then I did that, oh man, I felt terrible.
Hmm. Your body's recognizing it.
Yes. Yeah, because I took that away, that experience away for over 30 days. And then, and normally I don't eat that fast anyway, but anyhow, I digress. But yes, all of the signs of that dysregulation. And yeah, when you start tuning in and start paying attention, you're living from a mode that you had no clue that you were living from. The busy mind is another one too. Like the adrenaline, people run on adrenaline until the adrenals burn out and that mind is just go 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 go. It seems easy, I feel like, to be in that fight and flight and people kind of get a high off of that because you're just productive and you are a tornado and you're doing all the things and you're getting it done because you're running on that adrenaline day in and day out, but that only lasts for so long. And yeah.
Yeah, there's a saying, I don't know if you know this. When stress is on, digestion is off.
I
Have you
hadn't
ever heard
heard
that?
that, but it is true, like when we're running from the danger,
Hmm.
running from the tiger, running from the bear, the predator, everything in our system shuts down so we can run faster. You don't need to, when you're trying to save your life and running from the tiger, your body doesn't need to be digesting in that moment. it just needs to be running fast to avoid that danger. So
Yeah, it essentially puts your body in freeze.
it does, absolutely. And that's why we can't heal anything. And that's why things start not functioning properly. Hormones start getting out of whack. Eventually, your sleep will get messed up. You're not, if it's throwing your digestion off, which it will, you're not absorbing the nutrients out of anything you're eating. If you are eating anything good, like it is a long, long, long list. Like this function is off.
Yes, and I think too, I mean, how many kids even nowadays do you see even dysregulated? Like we were talking about before, when you see it, you can't unsee it. But even for children, right? Like what are we teaching our kids now, today, in our society? If we as adults are in that, sympathetic, fight or flight response, and then if we're constantly in that state of life, what are we teaching our kids? How are we raising our kids to be in that same way in most circumstances, right? Rather than if we actually sit down and have a meal as a family. How many people do you know that do that nowadays? Have a conversation, take a couple deep breaths to slow our body down before we start inserting food, rather than just shoveling it in and running out the door, right? It's really sad, like I think about that a lot, just being a mom myself and thinking about the times when we are in that, go, go, go. And I'm like, no, that's not how I want my kids to be raised, because I see it in so many other cases on a daily basis. And it's just like those kids are so wired. They just don't know when to calm down. And that's, not entirely on the kids' fault. Yes, at a certain, age, they can make their own decisions, obviously. But when they're young, it's not their fault. That's where the parents, should hopefully step in and realize, but that's the sad part, they don't, because they're just as a dysregulated state as the kids are.
Right. And so, talking about children and current day lifestyles, do you feel also that everything they're subjected to, TV and social media, I mean, that constantly overstimulates the mind? Actually, I had read a study. It was when Amira was like little, maybe like a year old, so about 4.5 years ago, on cocoa melon and how that is completely horrible for a developing brain of a child. Because if you've ever seen or watched cocoa melon, it is all singing, colors, dancing, music. There's no down. Like a storyline has some ups and some downs, and that it's all just hyper energy the whole way through. And then their brains aren't wired for that. So when they're watching that, if they watch that for 30, 40, 50 minutes or more, and then it also is teaching them how that, like, regular life, we have the ups, we have the downs. Energy throughout the day should wax and wane, and they get addicted. That dopamine hit, like you're watching an hour of a dopamine hit, and then their little brains can't adjust to like real life because they're comparing it to being stimulated constantly. I mean, just the thought of that.
Yeah, there's more and more research coming out now too about kids that, with all of this technology that's booming more and more and more. I don't know, obviously when you were younger going through school, like we didn't have the technology was just starting. So we were nowhere near inundated with technology then in school as our kids are nowadays. So they're essentially being bombarded with that now. And then eventually when they get home, if parents are in that fight or flight response, they're stressed from their workday, they just want to throw an iPad, or they just want to throw the television at their kids, right? Because they just need time to just chill. So getting back to that, nervous system dysregulation again, yes, there's a time and a place, I feel like, for, iPads, things like that at a minimal, but our kids are being exposed to it way too much. And especially those kids that have those neurological conditions anyway, like the ADD, those autistic kids, or anybody that has any kind of neurological condition in general, that technology is only worsening their bodies that much more because
Mm-hmm.
of that stimulation that their brain just cannot adhere to. It's just not used to it because that's not how the body is made. But here we are.
Mm-hmm. So true. And then, bouncing off of what you said, mom and dad are tired. They've been in the rat race all day. So the kids sit in front of the TV or the iPad or what have you. And then also, they're too tired to cook. So the kids are eating the sugar filled, food dye filled snacks, fast foods,
Hmm.
processed stuff. It's our poor human bodies have got it from all angles if we're not like
Hmm.
aware of what's going on. It's very easy for people to live the most toxic lifestyle possible. That's easy. It's
Yeah.
what's made easy. It's quick, it's fast, it's cheap.
It's the norm. And I
Yeah.
think that I don't know how you feel as far as with clients go, but when we try to work on somebody who is dysregulated as far as nervous system work goes, it takes a lot for somebody to even understand what that even means. Kind of like you originally had brought up about this, because they're just like, what are you talking about? Like, I can sleep fine. Or maybe they are sleeping fine, even if they are dysregulated. But there are other ways of being dysregulated that they might not even realize.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's one of those things that it's like, um, really tuning into nature has been one of those things for me that
Mm-hmm.
has been just so rewarding to my soul, because it's just like I pay attention to things that make me feel good. And sometimes that's hard for people that are dysregulated to do, because they're like, well, I like to go for a run. Okay, great. But on the other times it's like, okay, let's work on other things, maybe breath work. Let's see how you feel after you do breath work, right? Or even journaling, or doing like a sauna session, or walking in nature, just simply walking and listening, being undistracted by your phone or a podcast, just walking in nature and listening to nature. How rewarding is that to the body? See how your body responds to that. Do you ever have a conversation with your clients about that?
Yes, I do. And you're talking about going on the walks without the podcast. I have pouted about that at times, but I also know it's such a blessing. So where I live, it doesn't matter if I walk up Barker Hollow, down Barker Hollow, like we're very secluded and there's zero cell phone service. And so the only time I really have to listen to podcasts is usually like if I'm out walking and I can't, but it is a gift. And absolutely like taking yourself out of, and like you said, if someone's going on a run, great, but using your senses to observe everything around you, a lot of times running, depending on where you're at within your nervous system health, that can actually be a stressor, adding to, like asking for more adrenaline and adding to the problem
Hmm.
and not what you think it is necessarily.
Yeah, it could be doing your body more harm than good,
I
adding fuel to the fire.
Yes, my sister had gone through, maybe 7, 8 years ago. She had a house fire and lost everything, and that completely wrecked her nervous system, and her thyroid got out of whack. And there was not, it took her a couple years to recover, probably 3 or 4. And because her system was so just out of whack and overstimulated, the only thing she could do was walk. Like any sort of weightlifting, jogging, anything would completely send her thyroid out of whack, and she would take a further deep dive downward because her body was already barely surviving. And then when you lift a weight or go for a jog, you literally, like you said earlier, the straw that broke the camel's back, it cannot handle it. Your body cannot handle it. And downward you go into another spiral.
Hmm. Exactly.
Okay, so um
Sorry, I probably got off on a tangent.
Oh no, it's all good. I love it all. Okay, so one of the things that you and I have talked about or ranted about before, and it's still a mind blow, but I think this is where we're at as a society, so I'm going to bring it up. Talking about, I mean, you can go online or TV and everything is trying to sell you something. Wherever you turn, you walk into a store, a gas station, you turn on the TV, you look on your phone. And there's been a huge uptick in natural health and wellness after COVID, which has been great in some ways and other ways not. Because if someone is just the general American and they're looking to get healthier and they don't have a good foundation of knowledge already, they are going to be so overwhelmed, so confused, and lose hundreds of thousands of dollars on all these quick fixes and all these things that don't work. And nowadays there is such slick marketing out there that make all these different supplements and tricks and gimmicks look like the real deal. And you and I have talked before about like literally going back to the basics and keeping it simple. And sadly, people still don't understand what that means, like what back to the basics are, what that means. I remember you and I having a conversation previously about a class you were trying to teach and, talking about keep it simple, don't overcomplicate things. And, eat your proteins, eat your produce, but then people still didn't know what that mean. Or, oh my gosh, but proteins, what about red meat? Like there's just so much fear and panic around everything that people have such a hard time even understanding what the basics mean. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
And that's scary and sad. And I feel like our roles are super important because of that, because that's where we're at. What do you have to say about that?
Oh, how much time do you have? Well, it kind of leads back to what we were just talking about, because there again, how many people do we know that want to do better for themselves? And there's just so much noise around everything, right? There's the next poke that's going to help you lose weight. There's the next supplement that's going to help you lose weight. Really, though, that's what we see. We're inundated with TV or ads on the radio. We're constantly inundated with all this stuff. This will help you do what? This will help you do the next thing. It's the quick fix. It's the best marketing tactics for the next quick fix. It really is. And that's what they're teaching us. And we're being inundated with it. And our kids are now being inundated with it constantly, which makes me sick because it's like they don't know any better, right? Mm-hmm. What are we teaching our kids again? But if we just focus on the foundational stuff, think about our ancestors back in the day. What did they eat? Think of the fresh, nutrient-dense produce, the berries that they had to walk miles to get. How was their health back in the day? There weren't any diseases back in the day like there is today. There weren't prescription medications back in the day like there was because they essentially weren't needed, right? Because people were healthy for the most part because processed foods weren't around, right?
And all these moved things every day.
Yes.
We moved.
Yes.
We didn't go out and exercise. We just moved. We were gathering and we were hunting and we were lifting up rocks and we were walking up hills and down hills and we were toting water from a river or a pond back to, wherever we were sleeping that night. Yeah. We moved. Mm-hmm.
And I feel the more that we can distance ourselves from all of this noise, kind of like we're talking about, that's going around, what we see, what we hear, take that away from the situation that you're in, right? Tune that out. Focus on what your body needs. What does your body need? Are you getting up in the morning? Are you hydrating first thing in the morning with water, right? Are you eating breakfast? Many people don't even eat breakfast. Mm-hmm. Or if they are, it's from something from Quick Trip. Or it's coffee. Like coffee is their breakfast, right? What is that doing to our body? Making our nervous system and our blood sugars go haywire, right? And then we're just supposed to be in a calm state all day? No, our body is extremely angry and it's sending lots of signals or symptoms like, hey, what the heck is going on?
By the way, if you are starting with coffee or caffeine on an empty stomach and you are stimulating yourself like you're talking about, you may not already like your job, but everyone at your job is going to piss you off even more. Like you get so irritable when you jack your system up on caffeine, especially on an empty stomach. And so, wouldn't you agree that what you do in those first couple hours upon waking, what you do in the beginning of the day, what you're eating and drinking sets up your body for the entire rest of the day?
Absolutely. 100%. Your mood, your energy, your digestion. Think of what your digestive system is doing if you're not even eating and you're going straight to caffeine, whatever that looks like for people. Coffee, energy drinks, sugared, loaded with sugar, different like those tea things, lit teas or whatever. Garbage. All of that is inundating your immune system, your whole entire body, and your body's just supposed to tolerate it. No, it becomes super, super dysregulated after time. And then we wonder why we're getting all these symptoms or we're not in the best health.
Hello, leaky gut syndrome.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
when you
Yes.
add anything harsh to the stomach, there's that mucosal lining, and that just gets eaten away. And that's how leaky gut begins. So yeah, so when we kind of like reach the pinnacle of our interview here and then down the other side of it, I would love for us to round out with like some great tips on for our listeners, like how can we be of help to them. So we'll go to that here shortly, but in different areas, everything from how can I begin to downregulate my nervous system, and what can I do, like the little simple things. So anyway, I got sidetracked, but
No, you're
that's
good.
where we're going. So yeah, just how you start your day has a lot to do with how the rest of your day will unfold, how you feel, how your mood is, how your energy is. So in mid-December of 2024, I started wearing a continuous glucose monitor, not because I was diabetic, but because I wanted to study my body further. How can I continue to learn, feel, and like elevate my health? And I mean, that's been amazing and fun and transformative. But yeah, like I've never been a big, I don't think I know I have not bought a box of cereal maybe ever, like maybe back 20 years ago, like at the health food store, some of the sugar-free ones, but I bet you I haven't bought in cereal in over 20 years. But anyway, just some of the stuff that people do and the things they're eating at the beginning of the day. Say you eat a high-carb breakfast, whether it's oatmeal, sorry to burst anyone's bubble out there, not good. Or, a lot of people, pastries, breakfast sandwiches, cereals, breakfast cereal bars. Anyway, anything like that is going to spike your glucose levels, even if the rest of the day, let's say you have a salad with protein at lunch and protein and vegetables at supper, because you started the day off on that roller coaster of wreckage, your glucose levels are just going to go nuts all day long, even if you're good the rest of the day. So I cannot stress how important it is to start your day off good. And that's even if you end up eating a piece of chocolate in the afternoon, you're going to be way better off starting the day with some good protein and produce and doing it that way. But these are like simple things that people just don't know. They're not taught that. They don't understand that. Anyway, so if you eat something carby, sugary at the beginning of the day, that's why we get those afternoon crashes where you're tired, you can't think, you reach for pop or caffeine or whatever you reach for. It's because you have been on this roller coaster all day of like high sugar spike and then boom, a big crash.
What goes up must go down.
Yes. So
Highly recommend CGMs.
yes, me too.
If you are willing to look into what's going on, maybe of how your symptoms are, a CGM monitor is an amazing resource, and hopefully insurances get better about, helping us support our health a little bit more when it comes to purchasing those. But it's one of those things that you can learn so much about what your day-to-day tasks are, how they're disrupting your body or your mood or your blood sugar in so many different ways that you may not have even realized.
Yeah, and
It's so
then
insightful.
looping this conversation with CGMs back to stress, watching what happens with your glucose or blood sugar levels under stress. If you're too much in the rush, or, whatever it is that gets your nervous system all fired up and stresses you out, that raises your cortisol. And then all of a sudden, you may not have even eaten anything yet, and all of a sudden your glucose levels are as high as if you just ate a donut. Like, that right there is a simple example of how, people talk about, can stress make you gain weight? Yes, because all of your glucose levels are going to go through the roof. And it's no different than if you just ate a bunch of sugary things. Like, your reading can literally be the same. So yeah, the CGM is amazing to watch. Sleep, how, your levels are affected by your quality of sleep. Movement, big time. Movement's amazing because so when we talked about the stress, back early February, I had some virus that was going around. I don't even remember. It kind of felt like a 12-hour flu virus, just body aches. And then I kind of felt like I was over it, came back to the center the next day. But because I had that CGM and I was wearing it, it took 2 months for my body to get rid of that virus completely. So for the next 2 months, anytime I would go exercise or go on a walk, my glucose levels would go up instead of down because my body was interpreting walking as stress. And there were some other things. I've never had an ear infection in my life, and I ended up with a little ear infection. And the doctor on the cruise ship is like, "Have you had a virus recently?" I was like, "Yeah, like 6 weeks ago." And I was so irritated. But because of that CGM, I knew that my body was still trying to get rid of that virus. And I could feel that it had worked its way through my system. It kind of was in my joints for a little while, and then it ended up in the ears. It was working its way through, but it took a couple months for it to get completely out of my system. And then when I could exercise without my glucose levels going up, I also could tell that the virus was kind of gone then, because I just overall felt better. My alertness and my energy levels were better. But just that reflection of what's going on in your system. And I have a client that just got a CGM, and she's like a little kid at Christmas time. She's so excited, and she'll message me several days a week, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I did this and this." And right now she's at a place where when she exercises, hers is going up. But she got this CGM because she'd been feeling off and wanted to study her body and her health. And so it's just all so fascinating. If you're exercising, your body interprets that as a stressor, up it goes.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
That's not the norm, That's just a sign that your body is already fighting something else. So,
and it's once you start to tune into your symptoms and how you feel, and the more that you start learning about your body as a whole and the way it responds to things, and really become in tune to everything, every little thing, how you sleep, how you feel after you eat a certain food or after a certain meal or after a certain drink, how you feel after you are around certain people. Those are the things that your body's going to remember. Those good feelings, your body's going to remember, and it's going to reciprocate by, hopefully, as you do more of that, leaning into more of those good things rather than those bad things, your body's going to respond in a really positive way towards it. You just have to be willing to listen.
And if you, a year or two is such a short blip of time in the span of a lifetime. And if you can really tune in, in 1 to 2 years, you can be a totally different person, feeling completely different and living a whole different life when you do start to just look at those little things that you were talking about and do more of those. step away from the things that you begin to realize aren't serving you, that your body is asking you not to do anymore. With the CGM, I recently did a 30-day detox and cleanse, and, learned that my body doesn't really like fasting. Like, it was okay for a day or two, but then after that, like my glucose levels were like high, like I just ate a high carby meal. And it's like, oh my gosh, like it's wrecking me. And it's different for everybody. And it's different at different times of the month for women with their hormone cycles. And they may react differently one week than they would a different week. So, yeah, just really, like you said, taking little baby steps to start learning more and more.
Yes, absolutely.
So, where should we start with some tools? We can go tools on, regulating the nervous system, and we've been kind of tossing some out anyway as we go. Let's start there. Let's talk about, like, what are some things you've personally done or used to help regulate and calm your central nervous system, and some easy places for listeners to start if they're just a hot mess. Where are some easy places to start?
Movement. Just walking without distraction. In the beginning, if you have a hard time not having a distraction, feel free, like to have your listen to a podcast if that's what motivates you to walk, or find a friend, right? It's nice outside, especially in the early mornings when the sun is coming up, right? We're getting that morning sun, which is going to help stimulate and help our circadian rhythm to help us sleep better, right? And it's so peaceful in the morning. So I say walking is one of those things that I've really leaned into that's helped really support my nervous system. Walking in nature specifically.
Yes, and I suggest any time of the day you can fit it in, great. Mornings, I feel like, are ideal. Like you just said, there's just all the health benefits of getting the sun in the eyeballs, setting that circadian rhythm, but then also setting the tone for the rest of your day, setting the energy level, setting the calm nervous system. I agree with that. And like, progress over perfection. Don't try to start 7 new things in one day or even 1 week. Start with one thing. And when it feels like a habit that you just don't even really think about anymore, then go to the next thing. And don't get all technical about how many minutes should I be walking? How long should I be walking? It is better to walk 10 minutes a few times a week, if that's all you have, than 0 minutes because you feel like you don't have time.
Absolutely. Everything counts. Everything. It doesn't have to be perfect, like you just said. Just do it.
Yeah. And 10 minutes after a meal can take your glucose levels to a healthy range, help them drop faster, help so you don't get a spike in a drop. 10 minutes. And speaking of technicalities, some of the experts on glucose levels say that if you're, it's actually better to do a few 10-minute walks throughout the day than it is to do just a flat out hour. Now, the hour is not bad for you, but doing 3 different 10 to 15 minutes at a time is even better because it's helping to regulate that glucose all throughout the day. So don't worry about the details. Don't worry about being perfect. Stop worrying about the end goal. What can you do right now in this moment and this day? And tomorrow and the next day, worry about that when you're there. Make your plan, but what can I do right now? Our power lies in our right now. I feel like people get so overwhelmed because they've got themselves so buried under such toxic lifestyle habits that they just don't ever feel like they'll see their way out. And that's why those quick fixes feel so appealing, because they make you think you can get from right where you are to right where you want to be in a week or a month. We're here to burst your bubble. That's not the case.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, even just, I hear quite frequently, many clients that I work with is, well, what if I can't go walk for 10 minutes? Or what if I can't get outside? Nobody says you have to walk outside. If there's steps in your office location, walk steps. or go, take the long way to the bathroom, go back and forth a couple times. Like some kind of movement, especially after meals, like you said, just 10 minutes. Or if you can get outside on a nice day, walk a couple times around the block. You don't have to go 5 miles down the road, just take a couple times around the block. That's going to support your energy, your mood, your blood sugar, your digestion. If that's all you can get in, that's okay. Don't fret about, like you said, an hour walk. Do what you can do. Control the controllables at this point.
Park a little bit further away in a parking lot. I started tracking my steps last fall too, just to kind of evaluate what does a general day look like for me. Well, I often live that rat race life. I try to like zen my way through it, but the day might start at 5 a.m. and I'm like doing this, and this. But in all reality, my regular day without fitting walks in might only be 3,500 steps in a day, which is not a great number, for really good health, cholesterol, glucose. And so even just doing the little things, like if you want to set a goal eventually to get up to 8, 9, 10,000 steps a day, parking a little further in the parking lot, like little tiny things like that. It's lots of little things that add up and make the difference.
Find a walking buddy. Take your animal. If you have a dog, take your dog for a walk, or find those different things that fill your cup. It can be the smallest things, but movement is one of those things that's just an easy filler.
And if you have a child, take your little one, pick wildflowers along the way, pick up a pine cone, study it, feel it, smell it, connect to nature, all the little gadgets along the way that you can pick up, little walnuts and just different things, and just play. One of the biggest things for, I feel like, central nervous system health is adding more play to your life. And I had gotten very much away from that. I got too serious with all the things that needed to be done for the business and, making everybody else's world turn around. And I had worked in person with Eckhart Tolle last year in 2024. And, he talked a lot about that. And some of the most powerful mentors talked a lot about play. And if I quiet my mind and just look around me, like back in March, I took Amira on a cruise and I watched her. We were in Jamaica and we were at this pool, and I just sat and observed and watched her walk up to this beautiful little black girl, and she goes, "Hi, my name's Amira. What's your name? Do you want to play?" And I literally, that was in March. Here we are in June. And that moment still is at the surface all these months later of just watching them play and be friends. And they had a doll in the water and they bobbed their head. And then this other little girl had a brother, and then he got in on it. And it was like, that was a huge message for me. Like, shit, I am not playing near enough through life. And then I think back on different chapters of my life where I felt better in my health and better, emotionally and mentally. It's because I played all the time. All the time. I feel like our habits, or our lifestyle, things can just sneak up on you, and how busy I got and all the demands on me snuck up on me. So
it's easy to forget.
Yeah.
When we get caught up in life.
Yes. So playing is huge. What else?
Get your feet in the dirt.
Yep. Water, hydrating.
Hydration, yeah. Especially first thing in the morning. It's going to be really productive for your energy, even your mood. I know we keep saying this, it's redundant, but realistically, when you get up in the morning, try to have anywhere from 14, 15 to 20 ounces of water and see how you feel. Yes. It's pretty profound because most people overnight become very dehydrated throughout the night.
Also, write some things down. So just experiment things within your own self and start to become body aware. So if you're going to start making a goal of trying to drink 16 ounces right away in the morning or within the first hour upon waking, first write down how you currently feel, and then do this for a couple weeks and see if something shifted and changed. And I feel like a lot of times we don't even bring awareness to our own selves. And so we don't even really realize oftentimes if things are improving or they're getting worse because we're too busy to listen. So
Yeah.
what are some other simple tools? Breathing,
Breathing. Yeah.
breath
Like kind of
work.
like you said, journaling is really
Mm-hmm.
important. Uh, a lot of times, reading a book or doing something very intentional, at least 20 to 40 minutes before bed, can improve your sleep drastically. Suggestions like no social media, no blue
Blue light.
light, such as television, your phone, scrolling, things like that. Tune into other things. If you like to read, or if you like to do crossword or journal, or something else that doesn't involve
The
a
blue light,
screen, the
yeah.
blue light, which is very disruptive to your sleep, really tune into that. And really, I think it's really beneficial to just sit in bed, maybe with some dim light or just sitting quiet. And that's just going to help prepare your body for rest. And that's
Hmm.
really important.
I think one thing that a lot of people have gotten away from is planning. I love to like get out my planner in the evenings because I have more time, you not always, but more time in the evening than I do in the mornings, and go over the next day. Set up your plan for the next day, set up your plan for the week ahead, whether it be, maybe what meals you want to make that week, that next day, planning ahead. Oh, I'm going to get up at 6:45 and I'm going to walk for 20 minutes before I have to do, this next thing. Sitting with that planner and planning out your day. You don't need blue light. The good old pen to paper still works. And it also helps, I feel like it's kind of like the brain dump. It helps shut the mind down. If you can write it down on paper, you don't need to try to remember it in your mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, that reminder on paper is a very old way, but wise way
Mm-hmm.
of, supporting your health overall in your schedule. Because in a lot of cases, a lot of people depend on that once they start it because they realize how important it is and how it de-stresses their body almost to get stuff on paper,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be a schedule or their thoughts or, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Even just, planning out meals for the week or something like that can be really beneficial to the overall health too, as far as writing things down.
I'll also toss a suggestion in there that if you are just so overwhelmed and you don't know where to start, hire a coach, work with someone that has, a good reputation, maybe someone that a friend has worked with and had good luck, or, maybe seek out counseling to help someone, to help you kind of get some things sorted out. Another big thing for the central nervous system is setting boundaries and saying no. And people have a hard time with that. And some people at just listening to me say that might tense up at like the thought of it, like they know they need to, but they're scared shitless. They don't know where to start. They're afraid of somebody's reaction. Um, go go talk to a really good reputable counselor, get some tools from them. Just start somewhere. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. Don't try to be perfect, but don't be ashamed or afraid to go get the support and the help that you need.
Absolutely. Yeah, small steps at a time.
Mm-hmm.
The smaller steps are going to move mountains bigger than just, you know,
Mm-hmm.
overhauling your entire, all the food that you eat. You can't do that. It's going to be overwhelm and your body's going to regress as well, and it's going to be just too stressful. So just do small things, little tiny things at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you feel like you said before, once you feel like you've achieved that particular mini goal, action step, whatever you want to call it, move on to the next one. Make a plan. What is something else that you have control over that you can do for yourself to support your health? And then keep going little by little and you'll get there.
Yes. Consistency
Hmm.
is the key. Let's see. Okay, so if someone wanted to get in touch with you, Erin, and work with you for either, nervous system tools and help or, coaching for nutritional therapy, how can they contact you?
Yeah, they can go to my website, soulfulnutrition.com, or I'm also on social media on Facebook and Instagram at soulful.nutrition. And obviously, Shadi, you know me as well, so you can reach out to Shadi if you have a hard time connecting with me personally, and she can get you my contact information as well.
Absolutely. Go ahead and spell out your website.
Sure. It's
Yes.
SOULFULL nutrition.com.
Perfect. Okay. All right. As always, lady, it is amazing chit-chatting with you and connecting. We could create several different subjects and several different episodes. And so appreciate your time. And I know the listeners will really get some value and enjoy this episode. Thank you
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you.